After the high-wire act of diplomacy and working behind the scenes for a ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian militant groups in Gaza, U.S. President Joe Biden now faces a tough new West Asia test of recalibrating its policies in the region to make sure that the fragile truce lasts. Biden weathered the first major foreign crisis of his presidency that tested the bounds of his decades-long friendship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, with a ceasefire deal that has ended an 11-day conflict between Israel and Hamas. Today, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will be meeting with his Israeli and Palestinian counterparts as part of Washington's efforts to build on the truce in Gaza. This is Blinken's first trip to the region as the top U.S. diplomat. U.S. President Joe Biden has reiterated the country's ironclad commitment to Israel's security, adding that it will ensure immediate assistance for Gaza as well, in a way that it reaches the people and not just the Hamas militant group. U.S. recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. Biden had not prioritized West Asia upon his entry to the White House. He is yet to name an ambassador to Israel or even a special envoy. This conflict posed an early test for the Biden-Netanyahu friendship or relationship. Meanwhile, the State Department has stationed a veteran diplomat, Michael Ratney, to lead the United States Embassy in Jerusalem until Biden settles on his pick for the vacant ambassador post. On the other hand, Egyptian mediators have been traveling across the Gaza border. They met with Hamas's West Bank-based rival, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, in an effort to sustain the ceasefire. In fact, the Palestinian ambassador to Cairo said that Egypt is the only foreign state that has the right to intervene in Palestinian affairs. Biden's approach emphasized the private diplomacy over proactive public statements. In fact, it was his behind-the-scenes push and tracking the developments on an hourly basis that played a crucial role in ending this conflict. And now Biden officials are weighing what approaches to take to de-escalate the conflict further between Israel and the Palestinian militant groups. Now, they have reached an early consensus on leading an international humanitarian effort for Gaza, for the people of Gaza. U.S. hopes to empower the more moderate Palestinian Authority rather than Hamas, which the U.S. considers the Palestinian Authority to be the only plausible partner for peace with the Israelis. Joining us on this broadcast now is WION correspondent Jagruti Dave, who joins us from Washington. Jagruti, first big test or first big international test for President Joe Biden. Yes, we have achieved a ceasefire as of now between Israeli security forces and Hamas, but it is a tough balancing act, isn't it? On one hand, it's Biden's commitment to the security of Israel. On the other hand, Biden's commitment to the people of Gaza to help them emerge from this conflict.
Yes, I think there is nothing easy about peace between Israelis and Palestinians. As we've seen time and time again, there has been cycles of violence in the region, and this is the latest iteration of it. And so as Antony Blinken heads to the Middle East, I think State Department officials were very keen to tell reporters that this is not to pursue a fully fledged peace plan. This is to ensure that the ceasefire holds and to build on that. And the US is reiterating that their concerns are also to help ease the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, which has been devastated by the attacks that that Gaza has faced from Israeli airstrikes. Now, I think the process in place, the US's involvement, is one that they almost have been forced into by the events of the last week or so. though, remember, we've talked on this programme so many times about the US taking its eye off the Middle East. Remember, the US is withdrawing its troops from Afghanistan, one of the many measures that it's taking to take its attention and its intention to take foreign policy away from the Middle East and towards China and the Asia Pacific. But the latest escalation of violence between Israel and Hamas has meant that the US has had to return its focus back to the Middle East.
Absolutely, Jagriti, and US played a key role as far as the Abraham Accords are concerned, isn't it? A major step in normalizing relations between Israel and some of West Asia's major powers. Let's just focus on this trip by Antony Blinken. What's the schedule?
Well, Antony Blinken is expected to meet with Israeli and Palestinian leaders. He's going to go to Israel, the West Bank, and then he's also going to visit Egypt and Jordan as well. As you've said, Egypt has brokered this peace. Egypt is a crucial player, having talks as it mediates with both Hamas and with the Israelis. The United States, of course, because it views Hamas as a terrorist organization, it does not directly engage with Hamas. And so the role of Egypt is crucial in this. And there was yet another call between the United States and Egypt, again, just sedimenting how important Egypt is to the region. And I think regional partners here are crucial. You had over the weekend the UAE saying that it was willing to play a part in developing peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians. And I think there is a general sense that whilst the US has been a player in the Middle East, it's actually the regional allies like Egypt who have been crucial in the past and continue to be crucial in seeing that a ceasefire holds and seeing in the future if that could possibly be built upon to make a longer lasting peace.
Jagriti, very quickly, one of the key concerns over here is that while the US has committed itself to helping the people of Gaza emerge from this crisis, how does the US differentiate aid between people of Gaza and the Hamas militant group which controls the Gaza Strip, which the US has designated as a terrorist group? So how does Biden manage this?
Yeah, and I think the US has said that they are working with the UN, who is mobilizing funding to try to help galvanize humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. The United States is wanting to work with the UN, but also work with the Palestinian authorities. And I think they want to revive that relationship with the Palestinian authorities that has been neglected over the past few years, with the Trump administration really focusing its attention on its relationship with Israel and that relationship between Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which Joe Biden has obviously used the US's historic relationship with Israel as part of his back-channel diplomacy during the height of this conflict. But I think under pressure from the Democrats and the progressives within the Democratic Party, President Joe Biden is clearly moving to develop the US's relationships with the Palestinian authorities as well. And the aim seems to be to get into a position where the Palestinian Authority can have some kind of reintegration back into Gaza, where currently Hamas really has control. So that is the attempts that the US is making. How successful they will be, we will yet have to see.
Jagriti Dave, thank you so much for joining us with all these updates. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.